enjoyable experience. We recommend that you stay seated during the trip, but if you need to move about, please take a hold of the handrails in the open gondola cars or the seat backs in the coaches and first-class observation car. We ask that you hold on to small children during the trip. Please do not let them stand or put their shoes on the upholstered coach seats. And please do not put them up on your shoulders. While the train is in motion, crossing from one car to another is not permitted. We remind you that with the exception of the first-class observation car, there is no food or beverages on the train other than bottled water. The people that helped you board the train are your car attendants, and there is at least one attendant in every car. Their function is to look out for your safety and to answer your questions. In the unlikely event of an emergency, please follow their instructions. Your car attendant will now point out safety requirements specific to the car in which you are riding. Now leaving Old Sacramento, once the bustling commercial area of the city and gateway to the gold country. In the late 1840s through the end of the 19th century, ocean-going sailing ships and steam-powered paddle wheelers made their way between San Francisco and Sacramento, carrying freight and passengers. The original plot for the city of Sacramento was laid out and surveyed by Captain William H. Warner and Lieutenant William Tecumseh Sherman of the Army Corps of Engineers. However, a portion of the city had to be raised 12 feet beginning in the late 1860s, as the young officers had not realized it was laid out in a floodplain. By the mid-1850s, Sacramento had grown into a prosperous city, serving the needs of miners to the east and a swelling immigrant population flocking to California in search of a new and better life. entire West for that matter, was constructed from Sacramento 23 miles east to Folsom, beginning in 1855. Theodore Judah, a young civil engineer from the east, was hired to oversee the project. He later discovered a workable route over the Sierra Nevada for the nation's first transcontinental railroad. A company was soon formed here in Sacramento called the Central Pacific Railroad. It began construction in January of 1863. The very first spike for this great railroad was struck at Front and K Streets by the boardwalk that today leads to the Delta King. The project was completed when a golden spike was struck at Promontory, Utah on May 10, 1869. California and the West were finally opened and ready for rapid expansion. Railroading quickly became the main industry in Sacramento, supporting 1 to 3 workers in the areas from the mid-1860s. The huge Southern Pacific Railroad shop complex at the north end of the city provided skilled positions for thousands of workers. During World War II, as many as 7,000 workers were employed. Electricians, carpenters, draughtmen, pipe fitters, boiler makers, and steel workers all found their place in the Sacramento rail yard. Loaded freight cars were sorted and assembled into trains bound for all destinations to the east, north, and south. California products ranging from produce to petroleum and manufactured goods moved efficiently and economically throughout the country and the world. During the first 2 decades of the 20th century, promoted as the Golden State, was thought by many in the East to be a better place to live. Thousands of new residents moved in annually. First-class passenger trains were now the way to travel. And long before airliners flied the skies, the railroad made California and the far west easily accessible to all. By 1900, 31 years after the completion of the first transcontinental railroad, the Southern Pacific had become the dominant railroad in California. The SP had become the main means of transportation in the state. The line we are riding on was a subsidiary of the Southern Pacific called the Sacramento Southern Railroad. Service south as far as Freeport began in 1909, and when completed in 1929, the line ran 33 miles to Ileton in the Sacramento-San Joaquin Delta. It carried mostly fruit and vegetable products from Delta area farms and canneries. All of the personnel operating our train today are volunteer docents at the California State Railroad Museum, which is part of the California State Park system. Volunteers also maintain our tracks, service our signals, and do heavy maintenance on our railroad equipment. The operation of each day's train requires at least 35 volunteer crew members. The Sacramento Southern Railroad is federally regulated. Volunteer crew members undergo extensive training for their positions and are subject to all laws and Federal Railroad Administration regulations governing railroad employees. Our halfway point, the Bath siding, an area rich in local history. It was here in 1900 that the Summer Olympic swimming trials were held in the Sacramento River. The location was named for the nearby Riverside Baths and Park Company, a beautiful recreational spa built in 1905. We will pause here for a few minutes to move our locomotive from the south to the north end of the train. During this procedure, called a runaround, the locomotive will be uncoupled, moved down, and switched onto the siding, passing right beside us. The engine will then be switched back to the main line at the north end of the yard, brought back, and recoupled for the return trip to Old Sacramento. This is a good time to have your cameras out and ready. Don't forget to give the engine crew a big smile and a wave as they pass by. Remember, they are all volunteers. And while we're paused here at Baths and at the direction of your car attendant, you will be able to move between the cars.
You guys want to go inside?